Hello students, welcome to EPG Patashala. I am Dr. K.R. Rammohan, Associate Professor, Head Department of Anthropology, Sikkim University. Today we are going to talk a module on the contributions of S.C. Roy, L.K. Anantha Krishna Iyer and N.K. Bose. This module is from the paper Theories and Methods in Social and Cultural Anthropology. Before we go to this module, let us see what are the learning outcomes and objectives. To study the contributions by the following eminent Indian anthropologists, these are S.C. Roy, L.K. Krishna, Anantha Krishna Iyer and N.K. Bose. To study the life history, their contributions by these anthropologists. To study various theories and concepts proposed and which are very popular by these Indian anthropologists. Let us start with a very prominent, significant Indian anthropologist, Rai Bahadur Sarath Chandra Roy. He born in 1871 and he passed away in 1942. His contribution to Indian anthropology specifically can be categorized as towards tribal studies, towards folklore and case studies, and how the anthropological knowledge can be utilized in tribal welfare. So S.C. Roy's significant works comes particularly studying tribal communities in India. S.C. Roy firstly studied the Munda tribe of Chota Nagpur in central India. S.C. Roy undertook a study on their customs, beliefs, traditions, their overall life ways, and significantly their dialect, how Munda's dialect is different from other tribals. In his famous book, Munda and Their Country, S.C. Roy traced the origin of Munda tribe by utilizing the folklore method, their language, and the prehistoric evidences that how this tribe has lived, what kind of materials did they possess, their artifacts, how they use their resources. So Roy discussed the history and other land systems at a great length. So this ethnographic details about Munda tribe, their physical appearance, the parameters of their physicality, their material culture, their artifacts, religion, the festivals associated with their cultural life, and how Munda tribe has a cosmological world, their myths and folklore, the oral tradition. In another famous book where S.C. Roy took a detailed ethnography is the Orans in Chota Nagpur. In this ethnographic work, Roy explains the Orans social organization in its entirety. For the first time in Indian anthropology, Roy pointed out that Orans are famous for their youth dormitories, and there is a prevalence of this youth dormitories and the function it plays in the whole socialization process. how adolescents are groomed by the older adolescents, both boys and girls, and what roles this youth dormitories plays. And the political setup of Oran community is the village panchayat and the paria system that explained the function of this youth dormitory in social and economic life of this community. So this ethnographic work, which has also culminated into Oran religion and customs, which showcased the effect of acculturation and the rapid cultural contact among the Orans with the neighboring communities, which has culminated in a famous Bhagat movement. So Roy provided information about various social reform movements among the Orans. Roy gave a detailed account of the religious and magical beliefs and the collective feasts organized on the lines of these magical and cultural religious activities, along with the specific magical cultural practices of Oran. With this, Roy suggested that these various feasts, cultural activities like festivals, magical practices, brought a social solidarity among Orans. And this social solidarity maintained stability and long-term continuity, a sense of we feeling among these Orans. And these institutions played a larger role. So besides several monographs, Roy also wrote several papers on the life and cultures of various other tribal communities, such as totemism among the Asur and Pahira of Chota Nagpur. Roy also worked on the kinship systems and importantly the human sacrifice, which was prevalent in some tribes of northeastern India. Roy's contributions also culminated in folklore and case studies. Roy became the president of Anthropology and Folklore section of All India Oriental Conference. In this, Roy said that, and he emphasized, that the folklore should not be restricted only to traditional customs and rites and beliefs, but folklore studies should encompass close observation how the folk songs which are being sung by the members, which has deeper meanings, the meanings of each and every phrase, which carries a legacy of their culture, of their gods, of their dialects, and the folk rites and traditions which are attached to these songs. The belief system, the superstitions, the omens are important according to Roy. And for the first time he said that folklore as a prehistory of human mind, where when there is no written text, when people did not invent language, script, and not decoded in a form of a book, folklore is nothing but a quintessential prehistory of human society or human mind, as it gives number of clues or insights to the intellectual evolution of human society. Roy in 1935, with his book, famous book on caste, race and religion in India, gave a detailed and extensive study on the castes and tribes in India. And Roy concentrated more time and energy on Hindu literature to study how caste system might have origined in India and why Indian society has number of castes. Along with these ethnographic studies, Roy emphasized that anthropological knowledge, anthropological understanding, anthropological insights, and anthropological training should form as an expertise, makes the anthropologist, and it should be put into a codified practice of applied anthropology, and it should be used for tribal welfare. In a sense that these things, when anthropologists studying tribal communities in every nook and corner of India, should see that this knowledge should be applied for their well-being, for their upliftment. Roy strongly emphasized the need to utilize these anthropological knowledge and perspectives of various tribes have studied to resolve many administrative problems faced by these poverty-stricken, downtrodden communities in India. Roy wanted to provide anthropological training even to the administrative officers which are oblivion of tribal cultures. They do not know how to administer the traditional communities. If administrative officers are given some sensitization about their cultural aspects, that would bring some changes in their governance style. Not only to the administrative officers, even to the judiciary, even to the forest and other tax collecting officers, so that they can appreciate tribal culture and can promote welfare in these traditional communities. He says that anthropologists should intervene timely so that there will be no tensions in these societies. And Roy was very instrumental in resolving many problems between Munda tribal communities and the police officials when there was some agitation was going on. So he acted like a liaison officer. He explained that this is the situation of this community to the officers so that he could mitigate the unrest among this community. Not only these contributions to cultural anthropology, Roy's contribution has extended to physical anthropology and even prehistoric archaeology. In his famous book, The Principles and Methods of Physical Anthropology, which was published, made a significant contribution to even excavating many sites in Asura. He made exploratory investigations and found that there were some stone temples and sculptures. Cinerary urns are there, where he said that Asura were very inventive because of these excavations. Let us also see what are the significant contributions by Nirmal Kumar Bose, born in 1901 till 1972. Nirmal Kumar Bose's contributions to anthropology can be categorized as his studies on Indian caste system, Bose contributions towards study of Indian civilization, his numerous studies on tribal communities, and the concept he studied is the pattern of unity in Indian civilization. So N.K. Bose works on Indian caste system, mainly centered around the untouchables in the slums of Bolpur town in West Bengal under the Gandhian Reconstruction Program. N.K. Bose did not support the myth of divine origin and the notion of purity and pollution, which is very much prevalent in Indian social fabric, that some castes are pure and some castes are polluted. N.K. Bose proposed that caste system is based on the economic and cultural security provided by the non-competitive hereditary system. If you look at the whole occupation-based caste system, Bose was the opinion that every caste is identified with one occupation. And he said that there is no competition between one occupation and another occupation because every caste group is doing their own occupations. And it is coming as hereditary because it is vocation-based productive organization. People are secured. If you are born in particular caste, like a barber, like a goldsmith, like an agriculturist, you are supposed to take the same vocation, hence there is no insecurity feeling among the younger generation. And you are not in competition with other community, which is also a vocation-based program. And Bose also opined that perhaps this could be a mechanism where there was no intolerance and it maintained a stability. It has its own internal logic. Bose observed that the current developments result in deviations from non-competitive ascribed traditional system towards a competitive way when people started abandoning their own traditional occupations. Everybody is competing for the job. In other words, old structure being used in various combinations in new social meanings. And his famous publication, The Hindu Method of Tribal Absorption, Caste in India, Competing Productive System in India. So both significant contribution is on study of Indian civilization. In his famous book, Hindu Samajer Gadan, The Structure of Hindu Society, N.K. Bose explained that the various social processes shaping Indian social structure, such as the impact of British rule, various social movements have taken place in many parts of India, both in the medieval period, which when Islam was ruling India, or Islamic invasion was there. So Bose observed that the classical Varna Jati system will not be suitable for modern India, but some of its components and ideas may have still significant functional value. Hence, the cultural history of Indian civilization has exhibited a unity in among all these diversities. The concept of tolerance, that every community has to be accepted equally by other communities. Meaning that various diversified groups are bound together by the logic of Indian system of Jajmani, a system where each caste occupation works for other occupations, taking on hereditary positions and occupations. Like an agriculturist produces food. A blacksmith does his iron work. A barber does some other work. A tailor some other work. And all these are in tune with every other, which is come down hereditary positions. Perhaps this system, which has been there for a long time, which is a part of this Hindu civilization, could not be properly distinguished from its cultural point of view. So in that sense, N.K. Bose stressed that Hindu society was principally operated on the logic of this Jajmani system and to some extent this Hindu ideals. N.K. Bose has extended his works on not on just only on the classical traditions of caste and Hindu traditions, but he studied many tribal societies. N.K. Bose's fieldwork among the Zhuang of Orissa provided him the basic knowledge about various aspects of social and economic life of Zhuang tribal community. Where Bose has given extensive talks on tribal economy, absorption of tribes into Hindu caste system, the tribe caste continuum, and he has also explained the route to the tribal separatist movements. So N.K. Bose's book on tribal life in India explains that there is a little difference in economic life of tribals vis-a-vis peasant and artisan communities. Because the difference between rural folk and urban classes is undoubtedly great, but between peasant and tribal communities are more or less similar because due to their occupations. Bose has proposed the concept of how different social groups lived in unity in the entire Indian civilization process. N.K. Bose showed that various regions in India where there is, today we have this separation because of language, but share many material culture in common. There are similarities among many communities in India, particularly the material culture. So what does it mean? So that means there could be the ancestors were same. In his book, Peasant Life in India, a study of Indian unity and diversity, N.K. Bose proposed that the structure of Indian unity can be compared like a pyramid. There is more differentiation in the material base of life and progressive less on the top. So it culminated at the top. He took the analogy of a pyramid. In another publication, The Geographical Background of Indian Culture, Bose discusses as to how a kind of uniformity grew up between geographically and even ecologically distinguished regions of India, particularly through the tradition of caste system. So in that sense, Bose opined that the study of civilization is essentially the study of the subtle things, the innermost matters of the Indian civilization, matters of the intellectual things responding to the changing life experiences of people. So Bose opined that Indian civilization is different from European civilization because most of the thinking was same in communities. So, though there is cultural pluralism in Indian subcontinent, Bose opined that there is a sense of nationalism among all the communities in India. Let us look and study another important Indian anthropologist who has significantly contributed towards anthropological literature. Dewan Bahadur Dr. N.K Krishna Iyer, born in 1861 till 1937. Iyer's contributions to Indian anthropology were significant in a sense that the foremost one is study of Indian society, the tribals and the caste groups. Iyer's wanted to study both the distinctive social groups in India, the distinctive Hindu caste groups, and the distinctive tribal communities in India. Both are different and both comprises Indian society. So Iyer was keen interest in exploring the development of human society. He was keen to record the changes occurring in various aspects of life, particularly the tribals, while documents the facts and tribal customs and institutions. At the same time, he did not ignore the exploitative changes that occur in these tribal communities. His ethnographic work on Kadars, where he stated that the people of plain lands has deprived them of their simple habits and brought them to a modified condition of life. So Kadars were influenced by the neighboring plain communities, non-tribal communities, where there were significant life changes in this community. Iyer stated that because of their encounter with modernity has eroded all their cultural traditions. At a time where some of the anthropologists were only interested in studying the ethnographic details of these tribal communities. But Iyer has extended his studies to the most literate communities in Kerala, the high caste Nambudris, Nayars, the warrior caste, and the Syrian Christians. So, with his rich contributions to tribal and caste societies, he had the courage to change the 27-point format given by H.H. Risley, that the tribes and castes based on the census operations of ethnographic survey into 14. He could restrict from 27 to 14, which perfectly suited to Indian population. And in Iyer's famous book, Cochin Tribes and Castes, he took detailed study on tribe and caste and came out with this 14-point format, which included introduction, their origin, traditions, habitation, marriage, customs, pregnancy, childbirth, inheritance, the tribal organization, their magic and religion, forms of sorcery, funeral ceremonies, their occupations, their physical and psychological characteristics, their food habits, and the prevailing social status. So Iyer both adopted the ethnographic times during his time. He vehemently rejected the administrative way or the administrative method of collecting information about communities. So during his field studies, he used this participant observation method and lived with this natural environment, where he advocated that one has to describe the life cycle ceremonies of each and every community. So to understand the social status of particularly tribes and castes in Cochin area, he said that unless if you don't give in detailed life cycle ceremonies, we cannot understand what is a caste group and we cannot understand what is a tribal group. So he did not like this Western way of or the administrative way of collecting ethnographic data. To summarize, it is important to understand how Indian anthropologists have given lot of impetus in studying various social communities in India. So starting with S.C. Roy, which gave lot of insights in studying Indian civilization, tribes of central India, and how anthropological knowledge can be used for promoting tribal welfare. So S.C. Roy's contributions were significant in disseminating knowledge about studying communities. And he took a holistic approach by studying not only the cultural aspects, but he has studied the physical features of certain communities and tribes. And he also did prehistoric excavations. In that sense, he lived the true spirit of the whole fourfold anthropological tradition of understanding communities. So his contributions were long lasting, and the method that he used in studying these communities are noteworthy. Another notable anthropologist in India is N.K. Bose. How caste systems prevailed during Hindu tradition and how it integrated the Indian civilization social fabric. He combined both the tribal studies and the caste studies, and he proposed the concept of that there is a unity among diversity by studying these different caste groups, by bringing that there is a commonality of material culture among all the communities in India, though linguistically, geographically all societies are divided in India. And Krishna Iyer's works are significant in understanding. If you want to delineate, to study both tribes and caste, one has to look into the life rituals or the life activities, ceremonies. He did not only restrict himself to study the ethnographic, but he is interested to study how a tribal community changes in contact with other societies. By studying these three prominent Indian anthropologists, one can understand how they contributed, the methods they used, and gave light on the so-called traditional communities in India.